Let's go to our panel now. The first time we're catching up for this year. Stephen Conroy, former Labor Minister, and Michael Kroger, former Victorian Liberal Party President. Gentlemen, great to see you both. Stephen joins us from Colorado. I want to ask you about what's happening in the United States in a moment, but let's put up these pictures. These are Peter Dutton. He's in the new seat of Bullwinkle in WA. It's at the pre-election season, Michael Kroger. WA likely to be important once again. But in fact, let's just have a quick listen and see if we can pick up what Peter Dutton's saying there, talking to a couple of the voters.
The regulatory environment or pay costs or the input costs otherwise. What sort of shit's happening now?
Yeah, so obviously that audio not great in a cafe there. We're going to hear his news conference shortly. But Michael, WA remains an important part of the puzzle as we approach election 2025.
No doubt about that at all, KG. I think there are three seats where Peter Dutton's likely to win. He'll win Curtin, Tangney and that seat of Bullwinkle. And the reason being there was a 10.55% swing against the coalition in 2022. The national swing was 3.6%. So the coalition did 7% worse in WA than the rest of the country. So when that happens, the pendulum swings back. So anything under about 5% is, pretty well likely to be won by Peter Dutton, so in winning those three in WA. But yeah, it's absolutely critical. When you need 19 or say 15 at the least, those three are critical, but I think he's going to get those three.
Stephen Conroy, the Prime Minister's been back there this week in WA. It's been an intense and very important focus for him too to try and sandbag those seats. Labor doing a lot better last time federally at the state level in WA.
Well, Labor continues to be confident that Western Australia is one of its best states, and it would be disappointed if it lost the three that Michael's identified there. So Anthony Albanese, I think, has spent more time in Western Australia than just about any other political leader I've seen over my 30-odd years in politics. He believes that it's a strong state for him and that he will do better than Michael's predictions. So I think the New South Wales, Victoria are shaping up to be the most critical states. As Michael said, Peter Dutton needs 19, 15 if he wants to try and form a minority government. And he's got to make significant grounds in Victoria, significant grounds in New South Wales to achieve that.
Stephen, we've got the inflation number tomorrow. How important is what happens from the RBA? I know you've been very critical of the central bank and their approach to interest rates, but from a political prism, how important is that as part of the story as we head to election?
Well, look, I'm sure the government would prefer common sense to prevail and for the Reserve Bank to stop smashing the economy and accept that its forecasting's been inaccurate and put an interest rate reduction on the table. But I don't think it's something the government believe is going to, determine the absolute outcome. It's coming late. The voters are still feeling the pain. A 0.25 or even a 0.5% reduction isn't going to dramatically shift the dial and the amount of pain that people have been feeling from the cost of living across the country. So I don't think the government will, I'm sure they'd rather have it than not, but I don't think they're counting on it as something that will be moving the dial substantially. I think some of the measures that the Prime Minister's talked about late in December and kicked off again here in January are the sort of issues that the Prime Minister believes will build himself back into a winning position.
Yes, well, that's the thing, Michael. And just to pick up on that language from Stephen about build himself back, does it not lend itself to the possibility that Jim Chalmers, it might use that budget in March to try and launch into a campaign, a major set piece like that? I know there's an assumption almost now that that's not going to be delivered. I'm not so sure. I think still May 3 is a possibility for this campaign, for this election day, with Chalmers to have that major set piece, particularly if the budget bottom line does continue to improve?
Well, look, we're down to 4 dates, I think, April 12, May 3, 10 or 17. But, you know, I have this feeling that most people have decided their vote, and I think they've decided against the Albanese government for all the reasons that we know. I don't think Jim delivering a budget, which I don't think he will deliver, but I don't think Jim Chalmers will convince anyone of anything, because it's people's lived experiences that matter, not what he says. You know, if miraculously through, you know, thanks to Gina Reinhardt and the mining industry, revenues boom and he gets a surplus, which I doubt, I don't think anyone will be thanking Jim Chalmers. So it's people's lived experience that matter. I mean, the budget's all very good and great and all that, but it's all very theoretical for most people. It's not what their lived experience is, KG. People can't afford food.
Yeah.
So if Jim comes up with this miraculous surplus thanks to the mining industry, is it going to affect many vets? I don't think so. I think most people have decided. I think they've decided that Albanese is out of his depth. He's been a poor Prime Minister. People are horrified by the rise in anti-Semitism, and it's no coincidence that Labor are going to do worse in Victoria and New South Wales, where the anti-Semitism has been at its highest, because migrant communities look at this and they think if it can be the Jews today, it could be us tomorrow. That's intuitively that's a subliminal thinking people have, and they blame Albanese for the rise in anti-Semitism, and quite rightly.
Stephen Conroy, finally to you, as I mentioned, you're in the United States. What a week it's been since the inauguration. So much happening, the executive orders, the confirmations, and among those confirmations, the new Defence Secretary.
Yeah, look, it has been an extraordinary week to be lucky enough to be here and just deluged by it in their media. The focus is, as you can imagine, extraordinary. The coverage is immense. The decisions have been caught people by surprise. I'm not sure why it's caught them by surprise. He campaigned on some hardline policies. He's delivering on some hardline policies. I think the Secretary of Defence, needed the cast and vote of the Vice President to get him up. So there was resistance from, Republicans who accepted that he is likely to be out of his depth, that he has no experience in managing an organisation of the size and complexity of the Department of Defence. But, I think all Trump cares about is the images, which he's been orchestrating, of deportations, forcing countries to accept them against their will. I think will again play well for him. I think the mistake the Democrats are making is they're focused on that. I think I'd be focused on the quite extraordinary announcement that he was going to overturn Biden's decision to force cheaper drug prices. That is the sort of issue which I think will impact on the average American voter, not him deporting alleged, convicted felons or non-convicted felons have committed crimes and deporting those. I think the Democrats could fall into the same mistake that the Conservatives in the UK fell into, that Labor itself fell into for a number of years under the Howard era, where they want to fight an immigration issue. It's like that's a loser. Focus on the cost of living. He's not interested in inflation and the cost of living anymore.
No, that is that's the issue, isn't it? Certainly a moral to the story here as well in all of that. Stephen, we'll let you go and have dinner there in Colorado. Thank you for joining us. And Michael Kroger, good to see you. Catch you soon.
Thanks, mate.
Good to talk.